In the cold silence between stars, humanity vanished. But not everything died with Earth. Drifting through a dead galaxy, one ship still breathes. And inside it, the last captain opens his eyes. A forgotten signal awakens the stars. Buried codes, ghost fleets, ancient enemies stirring. He speaks not for war, but for memory, for reckoning, for everything they tried to erase. Humanity returns. The wind howled like it had forgotten words. Over cracked domes and rusted towers, ash drifted through a green sky, thick with atmospheric decay. Every once in a while, the old world whispered beneath the ruins. A transmission fragment, a hum of radiation, a sigh of memory. Valari Shent moved through the ruins with surgical precision. Her armor shimmered with adaptive plating, pale gold trimmed in obsidian, markings of a Tyrannosari dissector-class officer. In her hand was a sleek, serrated field scalpel. It pulsed faintly with the presence of organic matter. She had come for a corpse. One final human signature had registered in the archives, dormant for decades, then pulsing once, as if a ghost had remembered how to breathe. Protocol required dissection and analysis. The Tyrannosari didn't leave anomalies behind. The scalpel beeped again. She paused. The remains were supposed to be in this chamber, a cryovault melted through by time and fire. Yet no corpse lay where her data marked. Only breathing, only eyes. He sat in the corner, covered in soot and frost, hunched and breathing shallow. A human male, tall, blood-streaked, one hand pressed to his side. His eyes met hers. They weren't desperate. They were furious. "You're late," he rasped. Valari did not flinch. "You are human. 10 out of 10, he coughed. "Wouldn't recommend it." He didn't run. He didn't beg. She raised the scalpel. "By law of the High Council, your remains are subject to biological reclamation." He squinted at the blade, then at her. "You're not here to kill me," he said. "You want my data." Silence. Then she stepped forward. "I want your origin." She hadn't expected this. Not words, not consciousness. The archive said Earth's final engineers had sealed themselves inside cryotombs and starved. This man was no relic. He was angry, alive, awake. She advanced, scalpel charged. He tilted his head. "Tell me your name." "I do not." "Tell me, please." A pause, then softer. "Let me know who ends me." She hesitated. "Valari," she whispered. He smiled, despite the blood in his mouth. Draven Meyer, Biotech Division, Terraformer class, last of the Romantics." She lunged, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he leaned into it, pushing his hand against her gauntlet, stopping her blade with the flat of his palm. There was no fear in him, only something else, something colder. "Do it," he said, voice hoarse. "But you should know, if you kill me, you won't get answers." She froze. A beat, another. Then her HUD flared. Signal detected, neural tether ping, encrypted. From him. "Impossible," she muttered. But her blade didn't fall. He lowered her hand gently, fingers grazing hers. "You don't want a corpse," Draven said. "You want the truth. I can give it to you." She stared. He was dirty, bleeding, human. But somehow, she wasn't holding the scalpel anymore. He was. A pulse leapt from the ruins, coded, ancient, unmistakable. A human origin signal. Bounced off dead relay nodes across the sky. A Tyrannosari orbit station locked onto it. Inside, a commander turned toward his aide. Prepare extraction, alive or dead. That data can't reach the Council. Below, Valari's communicator blinked. She ignored it, because Draven was smiling at her, bleeding onto the steel. You've never been this close to a human before, have you? Her voice was barely audible. You were supposed to be extinct. He leaned back, eyes tired but focused. We loved in these ruins, he said, and you came to cut us apart. Her pulse spiked, and the scalpel, forgotten on the floor, dimmed to black. Kalar Prime, orbiting Blood Moon, Vraxis. They didn't chain Draven because they thought he was dangerous. They chained him because they were curious. A living human discovered outside the Council's extinction records. His capture triggered an emergency tribunal that wasn't publicized. Kalar's ruling elite didn't need the galaxy to know Earth had left behind more than wreckage. They needed a spectacle. On Vraxis, they had one. The Arena of the Thorns was built beneath red glass domes, where the blood of combatants could bead and streak across transparent ceilings for the upper class to sip wine beneath. The Tirasari claimed it was cultural preservation. The rest of the galaxy just called it what it was, a pit of sanctioned murder. Valari stood above the pit, watching, masked, silent. Protocol said she should have delivered him to data reclamation immediately, but she hadn't. Instead, she invoked a biological integrity review clause, granting her 72 hours of observation. They let her keep the right. She hadn't told them what he said, or how he'd looked at her. She hadn't told them that she dreamed now, in human patterns. Broken dreams of stars falling on playgrounds, of laughter in bunkers, of ash that smelled like childhood. Instead, she watched Draven fight, and he was not a soldier. He was terrifying. Period. The crowd roared. He didn't match their strength, didn't share their speed, but Draven fought like a ghost that had watched gods die. He used the arena's walls, its blind spots. He baited with weakness. He bled strategically. A six-limbed Brath warrior fell in 3 moves, not from brute force, but from a broken knee joint, followed by a crush of the breathing cluster. A fusion sword wielder screamed as her weapon locked, Draven having dusted his forearms with powdered ferrite to jam its coil. She died thinking she had him cornered. Each victory was met, not with celebration, but confusion. Valari knew why. They're used to fighters who want to win, she whispered. He just wants to end it. Back in containment, Valari visited his cell at cycle's end. She didn't speak, neither did he. He sat against the wall, wrapped in his own blood-soaked tunic, his breath slow and deliberate. But she noticed something. His right hand was trembling. Pain, she asked, quietly. No. He didn't open his eyes. Anger. I promised myself I'd never be a weapon again. You lied to yourself. He exhaled. Maybe, but you watched. That means you're lying too. She said nothing and walked away. Council eyes were watching now. Across the galaxy whispers spread. A human lives. He fights like a memory that bites back. The Tirasari are hiding something. The Council convened in private. Some wanted Draven executed immediately. Others saw opportunity. Let him burn in the arena, one delegate hissed. We learn what makes him tick, then we take the rest apart. But one voice, an ancient diplomat from the Ascari depths, simply said, he fights with grief. That's not something you contain. That's something you ignite. They ordered him kept alive. For now. Valari returned to his cell. She had brought no instruments, no armor, just a question. Did you ever love them? She asked. The people. Draven opened his eyes. No, she said. Your creators. The ones who made you, armed you, pointed you like a knife. Draven didn't answer immediately. He touched the bruises on his ribs, smiled bitterly. They didn't make me a weapon, he said. They made me a promise, one that I couldn't keep. Valari's hand drifted to the barrier between them. They say we dissect for knowledge, but you're not data. You're narrative. He stared at her. Long, slow, real. You can't dissect a ghost, he whispered. Only follow it. And something inside her flinched, because for the first time, she didn't see a creature in a cage. She saw someone who knew exactly how the galaxy would burn. The atmosphere fought them like a wounded animal. Radiation layers too thick, Valari warned. Auto shields can't hold. They're not meant to. Draven slid into the manual seat. Let it burn. They entered through a corridor of ash and flame. Cracked orbital platforms still drifted, silently whispering beacon codes from 3 centuries ago. One signal repeated over and over. Earth Fleet Command, if you can hear this, we never gave up. Valari reached out instinctively, as if she could catch the voice, but it faded. The colony's main citadel had collapsed inward, buried in centuries of dust and bombardment. Draven landed just outside it, near a crater field still glowing faintly. "We're looking for a vault?" she asked. Draven didn't reply. Instead, he stepped into the red-stained soil and knelt. "Not a vault," he said. "A tomb." Inside the ruins, remnants of humanity whispered from the walls. Child-sized handprints burned into metal panels. Scorched murals of Earth, painted with hope and desperation. The phrase, "We endure," etched into 100 bulkheads, again and again, like a prayer gone unanswered. In one corridor, Valari stopped. A single bed frame. A stuffed toy turned to ash. A child's voice preserved in an echo log. "Mom said if we hide long enough, the stars will send angels." She turned to Draven. "Is this why you fight?" He nodded once. "But not for revenge." "Then what?" He looked back, his voice raw. "To give the next child a chance to wake up with a sky that doesn't lie." They found it beneath the shattered command spire, a reinforced vault door, sealed by biometric and emotional signature, an old Earth Fleet prototype. Draven placed his hand on the panel, but nothing happened. "Too much time has passed," he muttered. Valari frowned. "Then how do we get in?" He turned to her and said quietly, "We ask." He placed his hand again. This time, he whispered, "This is Captain Draven Core. I carry the names of the dead. I failed you. I remember." A pause. Then a hiss. The vault opened. They stepped into history. Stasis pods lined the walls. Most were empty. Some held only dust. A few flickered, life barely hanging on in oxygen-depleted fluid. Draven walked among them like a priest in a temple of ghosts. Then he stopped. One pod still glowed blue. Inside, a girl, no older than 12, human, alive. Valari gasped. "That can't be!" Draven didn't let her finish. He reached for the emergency override and triggered the release. Alarms blared. Medical injectors hissed. The girl gasped, then began to scream. Draven held her, whispering old Earth lullabies. Valari stood frozen, because something ancient was reawakening in this ruin. Not just survival. Legacy. Draven turned to Valari, the child asleep in his arms, barely breathing. "We bring her to the stars," he said. "We tell the council. We show them." Valari's jaw tightened. "They won't believe us." "They don't have to," Draven replied. "They just have to fear what comes next." Above them, the stars pulsed faintly through the broken dome, like eyes blinking open after a long, cruel dream. The child from the vault, Ilara, slept fitfully beneath a thermal blanket aboard the final hour. Her heartbeat echoed in the silence of the medbay, impossibly steady for someone whose world had ended before her first breath. Draven stood above her, watching. "She's the last thread," he whispered. The truth woven into bone. Solstice's voice returned, low and urgent. "Captain, we've decrypted the secondary data burst from the vault's core logs." A string of star coordinates scrolled across the main holo display. Then a warning. "Warning. Destination outside mapped space. Protocol Red Veil active. Entry denied by Earth Fleet Command. Sealed system." Valari leaned in. Why would humans seal a star system from themselves? Draven's jaw clenched. Because that's where they buried the truth. The final hour aligned with Forbidden Path, an encrypted gravlane forgotten by every modern chart, locked behind ancient access codes etched into human bloodlines. The moment the engine spooled, the lights aboard the ship dimmed. Even Solstice whispered, "This is not wise." But Draven didn't flinch. He whispered the access command. "Archangel Protocol, Flamefall." The ship vanished, the star that died in silence. They emerged inside the corpse of a supernova. A black dwarf sun hung like a silent god, its light devoured by its own gravity. Around it spun the remains of a shattered Dyson array, once a megastructure capable of harvesting solar output, now twisted metal and obsidian spires, drifting endlessly. "No records of this place exist," Valari said, awe in her voice. "That's because they erased it from the galaxy," Draven replied. At the center of the ruin, encased in a sphere of quantum-locked ice, floated a perfect obsidian vault. No doors, no signal, just silence, until Ilara stirred in her sleep. And the vault answered. Inside the star's memory. The vault cracked open, not with metal, but with light. It peeled back like a flower, revealing a glowing bridge suspended in void. At its end, a library of impossible scale. Floating databanks, ancient war records, human AI cores preserved in crystalline nodes, archive tags labeled with Earth Fleet designations no one had spoken aloud in 300 years. "This is the Forge Archive," Solstice whispered. "This is where Earth hid what no one could be allowed to remember." Draven moved forward. One section was sealed, red-lit, caged in symbols of war and sorrow. Valari tried to follow, but was stopped by an invisible barrier. "It won't let me pass," she said, "because this part is only for the dead." The decision no one could undo. Draven placed his palm on the final console. It spoke with the voice of someone he had once loved. "Rion, if you're hearing this, then the Council failed us, and you lived. This archive contains two paths, Genesis to rebuild us, and Red Echo to end them." Two doors formed before him. On the left, a chamber glowing with green light, filled with blueprints, rebuilding humanity from seed and code. On the right, red fire and shadow, weapons beyond reason, protocols that ended stars, revenge in its purest form. Valari spoke through the barrier. "You don't have to choose now." Draven stared between the doors. "No, but I have to remember what each means." The archive closed behind them, its coordinates encrypted again, this time in Ilara's genetic code. A new voice echoed through Solstice's systems. "Archive sealed. One key remains. Earth has not ended, it has paused." As the final hour accelerated away, stars blinked into view, watching. And far across Council space, old sensors flickered. A human signal had reappeared, in a place no signal should. The Galactic Council's chambers had not known chaos in centuries. The glass-like throne world of Zarefas Prime pulsed with diplomatic urgency. Envoys transmitted emergency signals. Hyperspace relays burned with backlogged inquiries, and council guards lined the spiraling stairs with weapons not drawn since the Ascari uprising. All because of one ship. The VSS Final Hour had transmitted something impossible. Access logs, data records, and visuals from the Forge archive, a sealed war artifact believed lost with Earth. Its signal cascaded across subspace, translated into every known language with one embedded phrase that echoed like a pulse through the galaxy. Humanity remembers. The Dramari senator hissed across the high chamber. It's a bluff. The archive is real, snapped the Hydrax envoy, a mechanical seer whose eyes glowed red. And so is the key. That child, she activated it. The Ascari priestess, glowing with bioluminescent veins, whispered, "We were told Earth was destroyed, that the chain was broken." The Speaker of the Council stood, his voice rang like crystal cracked under pressure. "Then let the human show us." Back aboard the Final Hour, Draven stood motionless in the command center. As Solstice confirmed the impossible, the Council has extended an invitation, conditional, of course. Your presence, alone. No weapons, no interference. Valari's eyes widened. "This is madness. They think I'm a myth," Draven murmured. "And myths can only be killed in the open." Solstice interjected, tone flat. "Probability of ambush, 86%. "And yet," he said, placing a hand over Eliara's encoded data chip, "we go." He didn't change uniform, didn't polish boots. He walked into the past wearing the same dust he'd carried from the ruins of Earth. The shuttle touched down at the edge of the spiral hall, a ceremonial landing site where only species founders or war criminals ever walked. The Council was unsure which Draven Vex was. He descended the ramp slowly, flanked by nothing but silence. Above him, the towers of Zarefas shimmered, each built from light-forged stone and memory thread glass. The Council members watched from their gilded rings, some with horror, some with awe. The final human, still alive, still walking. Draven stood beneath the central spire, a spotlight of solar fusion beams locking on him. His voice echoed without amplification. "You summoned me because you hoped this was a glitch, that Earth stayed dead, that your lies remained buried." He raised the archive drive. "You fed your people myths, but this is not a myth. It's a record." Screens ignited around the room. Images poured out. Cryovaults buried under ash. Children raised in silence. Earth fleet's final moments. Council ships firing on their allies. A woman's voice, Sarah Voss, screaming before the last gate fell. Silence followed. No delegate spoke, not even the Ascari. Then the Hydrax envoy asked the question everyone feared. "What is it you want, human?" Draven looked up. His voice was steel. "Nothing and everything. I want memory. I want history corrected, and I want you to feel what we felt for one moment." He sent the final file. A heartbeat. Then another. Then the sound of a child's voice singing a human lullaby beneath the stars of the reborn Earth vaults. Some delegates wept. Others disconnected their feeds in fear. The chain shudders. Across space, relay stations blinked. The memory of humanity was alive again. But so was its judgment. The Final Hour exited warp above a fractured moon orbiting the dead world of Lyrae 3. Once, this had been a hidden vault world, a last-ditch fallback site during Earth's collapse, marked only by silent protocols and solar shadows. But now, the council watched it again. After Draven's address, eyes had turned toward all myth-class coordinates. Lyrae 3 was one of them. The fact it still pulsed with a faint human signal chilled the blood of every historian. Solstice scanned the orbit. Surface scans show partial atmospheric shielding. Vault integrity, 41%. Radiation pockets, lethal. Draven stood behind the command console, staring at the dusty projection of the broken moon. Then we go in slow. Quiet. What are we looking for? Valari asked softly. Not what, he answered. Who? Their shuttle broke through the dim sky, the moon's artificial field flickering like a broken memory. The landing site was an old military outpost, half buried in regolith and glass. Bones, real and steel, lined the path toward the central vault. Iliara moved beside her father, now bearing the same encoded archive band on her wrist. It's so quiet, she said. Draven nodded. This was a final stand. Not many lived to tell it. Inside the crumbling base, they found the old corridors intact, scorched by plasma, walls lined with desperate messages carved by fingernail or knife. We held the sky. They came through our friends. Don't trust the Hydrax. Vex lives. Valari whispered, they wrote your name. Draven paused at the last one, carved deep into a fallen panel. He said he would return, so we waited. He dropped to a knee, touched the engraving. The chamber doors responded to his genetic code. Inside, a dozen cryopods hummed faintly, 3 still powered, the others cold and silent. Life signs? He asked. Solstice's voice echoed through comms. 2, weak, and 1 undefined. They opened the first. Inside was a woman, gray-skinned from cryo exposure, heartbeat shallow. Her ID tag read, Commander Aelin Rourke. Draven exhaled sharply. She led the last Earth Fleet detachment. She's been frozen for nearly 300 years. Shall I revive her? Solstice asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Gently, the pod hissed open. Cold fog spilled like ghostlight. Rourke gasped, eyes fluttering. Her voice rasped like ancient paper. Vex? He nodded, stunned. You know me? She coughed, smiling despite the pain. Your name kept us alive. The third pod was not human-shaped. It pulsed irregularly. Beneath the reinforced glass was an interface port connected to something buried within the moon's core. It's not a person, Valari whispered. It's something else. Draven studied the markings. His voice dropped. This isn't cryo. This is containment. He activated the port. A voice crackled through his comms. Older than Solstice, fragmented by time. Echo 12, reactive mode, chained. Chain intact. Awaiting release code. Council scouts broke orbit minutes later. A warning beacon flared. Valari checked the ship's HUD. We've got inbound. 3 Hydrax interceptors. Orders unclear. Draven looked up toward the sky. They're not here to talk. They're here to bury us. Again. Solstice's voice crackled. Tactical advantage, 0. Moral clarity, absolute. He smiled faintly. Then we do what humans do best. Survive? Remind them who taught them fear. Draven stood atop the vault's outer ramparts, staring at the fractured horizon of Lyrae 3. The shattered moon hung heavy above them, a ghost light breaking through torn atmosphere. Council ships glimmered like knives in the sky, drawing closer. No hails, no demands, just pressure. Silent and absolute. Inside the vault, the ancient containment AI had begun to stir. Echo 12, Solstice whispered in awe, is syncing its memory with mine. What does it remember? Valari asked. Solstice's tone chilled. everything they buried. A low pulse emanated from the chamber. Lights flickered. Dust lifted from the floor in gentle spirals. Then, a voice. Not synthetic, not clean. Old, grieving, human. Strategic AI Echo 12. Earth Defense Protocol. Chain node active. Timestamp fractured. Query: is Earth still burning? Draven stepped forward. No, he said. But the fire you remember never truly went out. The AI paused. Identity, match confirmed. Captain Rion Vex, legacy node. Directive shift authorized. A flicker of hololight unfolded in the room, a battlefield rendered from a buried memory. Earth's last hours, council fleets descending through ash clouds, human commanders shouting over broken radios, final orders given beneath collapsing skies. Echo 12 narrated in pieces. We surrendered our lives. They erased our story. This tomb is not a failure. It is testimony. The first Hydrax interceptor dove through the clouds, plasma arrays armed, shields up. 3 minutes to impact, Valari called out. Draven activated the perimeter grid, ancient but still functional. We're not giving them this place, he muttered. He turned to Solstice. Deploy the Vault Defense Umbra. The buried silos around the crater rose like fingers from the earth. Defense Umbra online, Solstice confirmed. The ancient turrets activated, slow, groaning, but very much alive. Auto-targeting algorithms spun, tracking the sky. The Hydrax ships opened fire, but they hadn't expected the Umbra system to still breathe. Plasma cannons roared to life, intercepting blasts mid-air, tearing into the sleek alien vessels with surgical precision. One ship exploded mid-dive. The second tried to veer, but clipped the crater's ridge and spiraled into the vault wall, shattering into molten debris. The last tried to retreat. Draven spoke into the open comm. This is Captain Rion Vex of the VSS Final Hour. This tomb is protected. If you fire again, I won't return in silence. The Hydrax didn't respond. They simply vanished from orbit. With the threat repelled, Echo 12 completed its sequence. A final encryption unlocked deep within the vault. One file remains, it said. Flagged by Voss, pre-fall priority, hidden from all council surveillance. Draven stepped forward. The hologram changed. A private log from Earthfleet High Command. Admiral Sarah Voss, bloodied, weary, recorded just before the last siege. If you're watching this, it means the chain still lives. And so does the debt. Earth didn't die because it was weak. It was murdered from within. She uploaded classified footage, council-aligned diplomats signing secret directives for orbital bombardments, council vessels in Earthfleet colors betraying their own. They needed our extinction to justify their unification, and they paid for it with our children's names. Her last words cut through the air like a blade. Don't become them. Become something worse. Memory that never dies. The chamber dimmed. Echo 12 faded back into dormancy. Solstice absorbed the full data structure. Draven turned to the others. We carry this now, not for war. He looked up at the fractured moon. But because history demands to be seen. Solstice didn't ask for authorization. It simply began. Across council space, through trade hubs, comm satellites, academic databases, and even private memory banks, Echo 12's final file deployed like a virus of remembrance. It bypassed encryption, mocked firewalls, and bloomed like wildfire through silence. On every screen, in every language, Admiral Sarah Voss appeared. Her voice, raw and final, declared betrayal in a way that left no room for denial. They didn't beat us. They silenced us. They buried us under diplomacy and ash. But memory doesn't rot, and now it rises. She named names, showed proof, council signatures, council ships, council orders that shattered Earth. It was the most watched transmission in galactic history within 2 hours. On Zerafas Prime, the council convened an emergency session. Chaos reigned beneath the crystalline dome. The Hydrax slammed metallic fists against their podiums, shouting about misinformation. The Dramari hissed for war tribunals. The Vukar priesthood stood in stunned silence, muttering prophecies long dismissed. And the Iskari wept. At the center, Archspeaker Volex trembled. Where did the file originate? Trace terminated on Lyrae 3, an analyst barked. Through a reactivated node of the chain. The chain, sir, it lives, Volex hissed between his 4 mouths. Then we are not dealing with vengeance. We are dealing with consequence. Draven stood before the main display, watching it unfold, hearing fragments of responses across the galaxy. Some believe it, some deny it, but none can unsee it. Valari entered, her voice quieter than usual. We've stirred every nest. Draven nodded. Good. Some worlds are revolting, she continued. Others demanding council resignations. Earth's name isn't myth anymore. It's justice. Draven didn't answer. He was watching the blinking red dot on the edge of the display. One incoming transmission, encrypted in an Earthfleet legacy format. Solstice confirmed. It's from the chain. Another node. Draven opened the signal. A voice greeted him. Not AI, not military. A child. Captain Vex, my name is Mina Voss. My mother said you'd come. The screen lit up with a visual. A hidden station, orbiting a dead dwarf star. Green foliage in zero-G domes. Rusted Earthfleet banners gently spinning. Human survivors. Not myths, not memories. Living, evolving, hidden by the chain. We kept the vault safe, Mina continued. She said it would only open for you. Said if you woke up, it meant the chain survived. That hope survived. Draven closed his eyes. His voice cracked for the first time in years. Mina, send coordinates. In orbit above Zerafas Prime, the Council's fleet prepared. The final hour must be stopped, barked the Hydrax Prime commander. He has exposed too much. He threatened stability. But one Iskari delegate stepped forward, her body trembling, her luminous skin dimmed by grief. No, she said. He's reminding us who we once were. Before conquest, before fear. Her words were ignored. Orders were given. An assault fleet mobilized. On the bridge of the final hour, the AI's voice gained new depth. Captain, I've synchronized with every surviving node of the chain. The entire AI lattice remembers. We have their codes, their languages, their weaknesses. Draven tightened his grip on the command rail. And what do they fear most? Solstice replied without hesitation. That memory is stronger than death. Draven stood before the ship's primary relay, camera blinking red. He spoke not just to the Council, but to the galaxy. I am Captain Rian Vex, Earthfleet, designation Archangel Protocol. We are not your enemy, but we are your reckoning. You feared humans would rise in violence. We rose in memory. The signal echoed. Planets wept. Some cheered. Some burned. And in the stars, the chain glowed brighter. The final hour descended toward a dead world. Not metaphorically, not emotionally, literally. What once had been Earth now drifted as a fragmented rock wrapped in radiation storms and burnt skies. Oceans had boiled away. Cities had folded into themselves. The moon was shattered. The stars themselves looked dimmer from this place, as if light had chosen not to remember. But Earth still spoke. Draven stood on the forward observation deck, his silhouette cast in faint silver. Solstice said nothing. There was nothing to say. This was not a place for orders. It was a place for ghosts. "Initiate descent protocol," he whispered. "Coordinates Sol Ring 4, Vault Alpha, bedrock, meant to survive solar collapse." This one had never been breached, never discovered. The vault had gone silent the day the siege of Sol ended. It only opened when Draven's boots touched its threshold. Voice print recognized. "Archangel, welcome back, Captain." He stepped through hallways lined with names. Names of officers, scientists, children, paintings, videos, voices frozen in time. A chamber lit up ahead, casting golden light over a circle of cryopods. Only one was still intact. Inside, an old man. Not military, not political. His father. A recording played automatically as Draven entered the chamber. "Rion, if you're hearing this, then the universe hasn't forgotten us entirely. I'm sorry. I never wanted this burden for you. But I knew someday someone would need to remember." The recording flickered with age. They didn't fear our strength. They feared our meaning. That's why they bury us, because we showed the galaxy what it looked like to rise after falling. This vault holds everything: culture, music, stories, mistakes, all of it. It's not a weapon. It's who we were. Then silence. Then don't fight for vengeance. Fight so they can't forget us again. A massive formation of Council dreadnoughts dropped out of FTL around Earth's orbit, casting their shadows over the final hour like predators circling a wounded beast. They sent no warnings, only weapon systems priming. Solstice sounded the alarm. 32 ships, high-caliber graviton lances. "They will not miss, Captain." Draven returned to the bridge, eyes unreadable. "Then we make sure they understand what they're firing at." He opened a channel. Draven's voice echoed into every council ship, every listening satellite, and, thanks to the chain, across the galaxy. "You wanted a final war. This is a final memory." He played it all. The siege of Sol, council betrayal, the children lost in cryo, the last lullaby sung by Earthfleet officers before the end. This isn't revenge, it's witness. We were human, we were flawed, but we remembered. And now, so will you. On board the Council flagships, officers watched in silence. Many wept. Some simply powered down their weapons. Across 12 ships, targeting lights vanished. One by one, engines flared in reverse. Not to engage, to leave. The last ship to go, a Dramari capital vessel, transmitted a single word in ancient human dialect: forgiven. As Earth's scorched winds howled outside the vault, he stood in the chamber of memory, not as a soldier, as a son. The silence of the galaxy was finally broken, but it was not loud. It was solemn, heavy, final. And as Solstice whispered, "Transmission complete," Draven nodded once. "Then let them remember." The vault trembled. Not from weapons, not from tectonic instability, but from activation. Buried beneath layers of Earth's crust, beneath the vault where Draven stood, Project Archangel began to wake. Power surged through forgotten conduits. Star-forged alloys, once thought inert, rippled with light. The chain had synchronized. Across dozens of systems, human relic AIs pulsed in harmony. Forgotten fragments, corrupted black box war mines, dead colony beacons, each sang the same encrypted phrase: "Archangel online." Draven stood at the vault's core terminal, Solstice's projection beside him, a woman-shaped glow flickering with intensity. "What is this?" he asked. Solstice hesitated, then answered, "Not revenge, not preservation. A choice left by the last humans who knew we wouldn't survive." A panel opened. Two paths illuminated, like the archive before, but different now. Not red and green. Instead, legacy or legend. Solstice continued, her voice quieter now. Legacy means silence. We retreat. Pass on knowledge. Let myths heal. Legend means fire. Every chain node activates. Every ancient fleet core reboots. We become the story they cannot erase. Draven didn't speak, not yet. At the edge of the council space, fleets remained frozen, not out of fear, but reverence. On dead moons, old Earth fleet warships began to rise from under ice, from ruined bunkers, from ocean trenches. Ancient drives sputtered to life. Combat AI nodes lit up for the first time in centuries. On the outer rims, alien civilizations whispered prayers to gods long silent. Because they all knew, if Earth really returned, nothing would be the same. As Draven hovered over the interface, one last message played. His own voice, recorded in Earth's final hours. "If I ever awaken, I don't want to be your weapon. I want to be the reason you remember who we were." He looked at Solstice. "I don't want fire." Solstice nodded. "Then choose." Draven selected legacy. The world didn't explode. No superweapon fired. No fleets launched. Instead, Earth's signal expanded, not as a war cry, but as a broadcast. Stories, names, songs. These were our artists. These were our lovers. These were our mistakes. This was our dream. Project Archangel became a galactic archive, living memory sent into every system, seeded into every translation node, every star map. Not to conquer, but to be understood. The Arc Speaker of the Council stepped forward during emergency session, eyes heavy, voice soft. "We feared they'd return with fire," he said, "but they returned with truth." The final hour hovered, its lights dimmed, its weapons never fired. Draven stood at the viewing deck. Solstice said, "They're listening." He nodded. "Let them." One last signal pulsed through the chain. Quiet, beautiful, unshakable. "We are the children of the ash. We burned, we healed, we remembered. And now, so will you.